Commander Vex 9 tapped his clawed fingers against the holographic display, watching the primitive blue planet rotate slowly before his 8 eyes. The hunting season was about to begin, and oh, what a glorious season it would be. The Galactic Hunt Council had finally approved Earth as a new hunting ground, and Vex 9 could barely contain his excitement. Sir, his aide, Grunt 4, shuffled nervously behind him. The preliminary reports about these humans, they seem rather concerning. Vex 9 let out a sound that passed for laughter among his species, a wet, gurgling noise that made nearby crew members visibly uncomfortable. Concerning? My dear Grunt 4, what could possibly be concerning about a species that hasn't even achieved proper space travel? They're still burning fossil fuels, for the love of the void. Well, sir, they do seem to have an unusual talent for what? Vex 9 spun around, his massive frame casting a shadow over the smaller alien. For making colorful explosions? For arguing about invisible sky beings? For consuming liquid poison for entertainment? He waved dismissively. I've read the files. They're perfect prey. Emotional, irrational, and delightfully fragile. Grunt 4 swallowed hard, his throat sac bulging uncomfortably. Yes, sir. But there was that incident with the Krillian Empire. The Krillians were idiots. Vex 9 snorted. They tried to conquer the humans outright. We're simply going to hunt them for sport. Big difference. It's much more civilized. The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines. Vex 9 turned back to the display, admiring the swirling white clouds over the continental masses. Such a beautiful planet, really. Perfect for a hunting preserve. Besides, he continued, the humans have been so helpful in providing us with detailed information about their own species. Their entertainment media, their military documents, their psychological profiles, they broadcast everything into space. It's almost too easy. Sir, about that, Grunt 4 began, but Vex 9 cut him off with a sharp gesture. Prepare the hunting parties. I want the best of the best. This is going to be the event of the millennium. His eyes gleamed with anticipation. And make sure to invite the Zephyrian nobles. They've been bragging about their hunting prowess for decades. Time to show them what real predators can do. 3 days later, the hunting fleet dropped out of hyperspace just beyond Earth's moon. 12 massive vessels, each one bristling with advanced technology and carrying the galaxy's most elite hunters. The plan was simple. Establish a perimeter, beam down hunting parties to various locations, and spend the next few weeks enjoying the most exotic prey the galaxy had to offer. Vex 9 stood in the teleportation chamber, adjusting his ceremonial hunting armor. The gleaming purple metal was inscribed with the kills of 1,000 hunts across 100 worlds. Today, he would add humans to that collection. Remember, he addressed his hunting party. We want to make this last. These creatures are supposedly quite clever when cornered, so don't underestimate them completely. But also don't overthink it. They're still just primitives with basic projectile weapons. The hunting party consisted of 12 of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Razix Prime, whose acid spit could melt through titanium. Orden 7, who could become invisible to most forms of detection. Killclaw Beta, whose 4 arms each wielded a different deadly weapon. And 9 others, each a master of their deadly craft. Target acquired. Announced the ship's AI, small human settlement. Population approximately 2,000. A minimal military presence detected. Perfect. Vex 9 grinned, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. A nice, easy warm-up. Energize. The familiar tingle of molecular dissolution washed over them, and moments later, they materialized in a forest clearing about 3 miles from the human settlement. The air was thick with unfamiliar scents, and the gravity was slightly lighter than Vex 9 was used to, but nothing his species couldn't handle. Spread out, he commanded. Remember, we want to herd them toward the town center. Maximum panic, maximum fear. It makes the hunt more flavorful. The hunting party dispersed into the woods with practiced efficiency. Vex 9 himself took the direct approach, marching straight toward the settlement. His armor scanner indicated several humans moving about their daily routines, completely unaware of the death that was approaching. The first human he encountered was a female, apparently tending to some sort of vegetation. She looked up as he approached, and her reaction was underwhelming. Instead of screaming in terror, she simply stared at him with what appeared to be mild curiosity. "Well, hello there," she said in a surprisingly calm voice. "You're not from around here, are you?" Vex 9 stopped short. This wasn't the reaction he'd expected. "I am Commander Vex 9 of the Galactic Hunt Council. You should be running in terror." The human tilted her head slightly. "Should I? You seem pretty scary, I'll give you that. But honestly, after dealing with my ex-husband for 15 years, you're not really registering on my panic scale." "Your ex-husband?" Harold. "Real piece of work. Used to throw things when he got drunk, left dirty dishes everywhere. Had this habit of, 'I'm here to hunt you.'" Vex 9 interrupted, raising his plasma rifle. "For sport. You're supposed to be afraid." The human woman, who had introduced herself as Betty, glanced at the weapon with the same expression she might use to examine a particularly interesting flower. "That's nice, dear. But I'm afraid I'm busy right now. Maybe you could come back later? Say around 3 o'clock? I'll have finished my gardening by then." Vex 9 stared at her in complete bewilderment. This was not how hunting was supposed to work. Where was the screaming? The running? The delicious fear that made the chase worthwhile? "You don't understand," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "I'm going to kill you. Hunt you down like an animal. It's what I do." Betty nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Well, that does sound unpleasant, but you know what? I've had a really hard week. My grandson broke his arm falling off his bike, my car needs new brakes, and the government just raised my property taxes again. So honestly, yes, being hunted by a space alien is kind of just Tuesday at this point." Something cold began to settle in Vex 9's stomach. This wasn't right. This wasn't right at all. "Ma'am," he said, his voice rising slightly, "I am a professional killer. I have ended the lives of creatures across 17 star systems. I am feared throughout the galaxy." "That's nice, dear," Betty replied, returning to her gardening. "But could you keep it down? The neighbors are trying to sleep." In the distance, Vex 9 could hear the sound of his hunting party making contact with other humans. But instead of screams of terror, he heard laughter. And was that someone playing music? His communicator crackled to life. "Commander, this is Razix Prime. I'm having some difficulties." "What kind of difficulties?" Vex 9 demanded. "Well, sir, I cornered a group of human younglings, expecting easy prey, but they started asking me questions about my home planet, my family, my hobbies. One of them offered me something called cookies. I'm not sure what to do." "Kill them," Vex 9 shouted. "That's what you do." "I tried, sir, but they're just so friendly, and these cookies are actually quite good. The small female says her grandmother's recipe won a prize at something called a county fair." "Razix Prime, report your status immediately." I'm teaching them about asteroid mining, sir. They're very interested in the technical aspects." Vex 9 felt his second stomach begin to churn. This was rapidly becoming a disaster. Mordant 7. "What's your status?" "Complicated, sir. I used my invisibility cloak to sneak up on a group of human males. But when I became visible to strike, they started cheering and asking me to do it again. Apparently, they think I'm some kind of entertainer. They've offered me money to perform at something called a birthday party. This is insane." Vex 9 roared. "You're supposed to be apex predators." "Like it, sir," came another voice, this one belonging to Kill Claw Beta. "I've encountered a human who calls himself Frank. He's invited me to something called a barbecue. He says he's been waiting his whole life to meet an alien, and he wants to show me how to grill something called burgers." Vex 9 looked down at Betty, who was still calmly tending her garden. "What is wrong with your species?" he asked desperately. Betty looked up at him with the patient expression of someone who had dealt with many confused beings over the years. "Honey, what's wrong with yours? You came all the way across the galaxy just to pick on people who can't fight back. That's not scary, that's just sad. But you're supposed to be afraid. You're supposed to run." "From what?" You? Betty stood up, brushing dirt off her hands. Sweetie, you're just a big bully with fancy toys, and you know what we do with bullies around here. What? Vex9 asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. We introduced them to the Jenkins family. As if summoned by her words, a new voice called out from behind Vex9. Hey there, Betty. Who's your friend? Vex9 turned to see a human male approaching. He was tall, lean, and moved with a casual confidence that set off every predator instinct Vex9 possessed. But it wasn't the way he moved that made Vex9's blood run cold. It was his eyes. They were the eyes of something that had seen combat, real combat, and had not only survived but thrived. This is Commander Vex9, Betty said cheerfully. He's from outer space, and he wants to hunt us for sport. The man's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture, something subtle and deadly. Is that so? He said, his voice carrying a deceptively mild tone. That's interesting. And you are? Vex9 managed to ask. Jake Jenkins. I run a little security consulting business. I used to work for the government. But I got tired of all the paperwork. He smiled, and Vex9 realized with growing horror that it was the smile of a predator. So, Commander, you said you wanted to hunt us? Yes, for sport. It's traditional, Jake repeated slowly. Well, that's nice. We have some traditions around here too. One of them is that when someone threatens our neighbors, we tend to take it personally. Vex9's communicator erupted in chatter. His hunting party was reporting increasingly bizarre encounters. Humans who wanted to discuss philosophy with them. Humans who offered them jobs. Humans who seemed genuinely excited to meet aliens and wanted to exchange cultural information. But underneath it all, Vex9 was beginning to detect something else, a subtle shift in the humans' behavior. They were still friendly, still welcoming, but there was an undercurrent of preparation, as if they were quietly organizing themselves while maintaining their cheerful facades. Jake, Betty said, maybe you should call the boys, let them know we have visitors. Jake nodded, pulling out a small device. Hey, Mike. Yeah, it's Jake. We've got some folks here who want to play a little game. You might want to round up the usual suspects. What kind of game? Vex9 asked, though he was starting to suspect he really didn't want to know. Jake's smile widened. Oh, you know, the kind where someone thinks they're the hunter, and then they find out they're really the prey. In the distance, Vex9 could hear the sound of vehicles starting up, lots of vehicles. And something else, something that made his scales crawl with primitive fear, the sound of humans laughing. But it wasn't the friendly laughter he'd heard before. This was different. This was the laughter of creatures who had just realized they were about to have the most fun they'd had in years. Commander, his communicator crackled. This is Grunt 4. We're detecting massive human movement throughout the area. They appear to be surrounding us? That's impossible, Vex9 said. But even as he spoke, he could see humans emerging from buildings, from vehicles, from what appeared to be hiding places he hadn't even known existed. They were all smiling. They were all armed. And they were all looking at him with the expression of people who had just been handed the best Christmas present ever. You know, Jake said conversationally, it's funny. We've been wondering for decades what we'd do if aliens ever showed up. Most people figured we'd either welcome them as friends or fight them as invaders. But you guys, you've given us something we never expected. What's that? Vex9 asked, though he was pretty sure he didn't want to know. Target practice. The sound of human laughter grew louder, and Vex9 realized with dawning horror that he had made a terrible, terrible mistake. These weren't prey animals. These were something much, much worse. These were humans who had just been told they were being hunted, and they thought it was funny. The next few minutes passed in what Vex9 could only describe as organized pandemonium. Humans seemed to materialize from every possible hiding spot, and each one carrying weapons that ranged from primitive firearms to things that looked suspiciously like they'd been cobbled together in someone's garage. The most disturbing part wasn't the weapons themselves, but the expressions on the humans' faces. They were having the time of their lives. All right, everybody, Jake Jenkins called out. his voice carrying easily across the growing crowd. "We've got ourselves a genuine alien hunting party, 12 of them, scattered throughout the area. They came here thinking we'd be easy pickings." A cheer went up from the assembled humans, and Vex-9 felt his tertiary heart skip a beat. This was not the reaction of a prey species. This was the reaction of something that had just been handed the most exciting challenge it had seen in years. "Now, I know what you're all thinking," Jake continued, grinning broadly. "Poor little aliens. They don't know what they've gotten themselves into. But let's be sporting about this, shall we?" "What do you mean, sporting?" Betty asked, though she was smiling in a way that made Vex-9's skin crawl. "Well, they wanted to hunt us for sport, right? Seems only fair we return the favor." Jake turned to address Vex-9 directly. "Commander, I'm going to make you a deal. You and your buddies get a 10-minute head start. After that, we come looking for you." You can't be serious," Vex-9 stammered. "Oh, I'm dead serious," Jake replied. "But here's the thing. We're not going to kill you. That would be unsporting. We're just going to teach you a few things about hunting." Vex-9's communicator exploded with panicked chatter from his hunting party. "Sir, the humans are coordinating some kind of response. Commander, they're using communication devices we didn't know they had. Sir, I think we may have underestimated them." "You think?" Vex-9 snarled into the device. "All units, retreat to the extraction point immediately." "About that," Jake said, pulling out his own communication device. "Mike, you still got eyes on those big ships in orbit?" "Copy that, Jake. Our boys in the Air Force are very interested in having a chat with them." Vex-9 felt his world begin to collapse around him. "You can't reach our ships. Your technology isn't advanced enough." "You're right," Jake agreed. "Our technology isn't advanced enough, but you know what is? The technology you brought with you. Thanks for the teleportation coordinates, by the way. Very helpful." "What are you talking about?" Betty patted Vex-9 on the arm with the gentle patience of a grandmother explaining something to a slow child. "Honey, you've been broadcasting your location data on 17 different frequencies since you arrived. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? But you're primitives. You burn fossil fuels. We also have some very smart people with very good equipment," Jake said. "And most importantly, we have something you clearly don't." "What's that?" "Experience." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Vex-9 was beginning to understand that he had made a fundamental error in his assessment of humans. They weren't primitive. They were selective. "You see, Commander," Jake continued, his voice taking on a lecturing tone, "we've been hunting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very, very good at it. The only reason we stopped was because we decided it was more fun to hunt other things. But you've given us a reason to dust off some old skills. This is impossible," Vex-9 muttered. "The psychological profiles, the behavioral analysis, the cultural studies, they all indicated you were a docile species." "Well, there's your first mistake," said a new voice. A human female approached, carrying what appeared to be a laptop computer. "Dr. Sarah Martinez, anthropologist. I've been monitoring your transmissions for the past 3 days. Fascinating stuff, really. Your species seems to have a remarkable ability to misinterpret data." "What do you mean?" "You looked at our entertainment media and concluded we were violent but disorganized. You saw our news broadcasts and decided we were easily panicked. You observed our social media and determined we were narcissistic and weak." Dr. Martinez smiled. "You missed the most important thing, which is, we're all of those things. But we're also adaptable. When someone threatens us, we stop being individuals and start being something else entirely." As if to demonstrate her point, the crowd of humans around them had quietly organized itself into what was clearly a military formation. They'd done it so smoothly and naturally that Vex-9 hadn't even noticed it happening. "How many of you are there?" he asked weakly. "In this little town?" "About 2,000, Jake replied, "but word's getting out. Social media, you know, the internet. By now, half the planet knows you're here, and they're not happy about it." Betty added cheerfully, "Humans don't like bullies." Vex-9's communicator crackled with increasingly desperate reports from his hunting party. Sir, I'm surrounded by humans who want to discuss quantum physics. Commander, they're teaching me card games. Sir, I think I'm being adopted. This is Killclaw Beta, came a particularly strained voice. I've been captured by something called Boy Scouts. They've tied me up using techniques I've never seen before. And they're making me participate in something called a camping trip. What's a camping trip? Vex-9 asked before he could stop himself. It's where we teach young humans survival skills, Jake explained. Tracking, hunting, trap setting, outdoor cooking. You know, the basics. The basics of what? Staying alive when someone's trying to kill you. The implications of this statement hit Vex-9 like a physical blow. He had assumed that humans were soft because they lived in cities and used technology. He had completely failed to consider that they might still maintain the skills that had made them apex predators on their own planet. Sir, came another voice through the communicator. This is Razix Prime. I've been cornered by a group of humans who call themselves hunters. They want to teach me about something called trophy tracking. Trophy tracking? It's where they follow prey animals for days or weeks, learning their habits, their patterns, their weaknesses. They know more about predator behavior than our entire xenobiology department. Vex-9 looked around at the humans surrounding him. They were still smiling, still friendly, but he was beginning to see something else in their eyes. Something that made his evolutionary survival instincts scream warnings. You're not prey, he said slowly. The realization hitting him like a physical blow. Never were, Jake confirmed. We're what happens when prey evolves into something that eats the things that used to eat it. But the Galactic Council classified you as a Class 7 prey species. The Galactic Council, Dr. Martinez said, has clearly never met a human parent whose child has been threatened. As if summoned by her words, a new group of humans arrived. These ones were different. They moved with purpose, their eyes scanning the area with professional efficiency. They wore no uniforms, but everything about them screamed military. Jake, one of them, called out, "We've got the situation contained. The alien ships are under observation, and we've got teams moving to secure the other hunting parties." What kind of teams? Vex-9 asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Oh, you know, Jake said casually. Former military, police, hunters, survivalists. The kind of people who've been preparing for this scenario their whole lives. Preparing for what scenario? The one where someone shows up on our planet thinking they can treat us like animals. Vex-9's communicator was now a constant stream of confused and panicked reports. His hunting party was being systematically captured, contained, and apparently educated by humans who seemed to find the whole situation endlessly amusing. This is Morden 7, came a particularly bewildered voice. I've been captured by a group of human children. They're teaching me jump rope. Jump rope? It's a coordination exercise, Betty explained. Very good for reflexes and timing. Essential skills for hunting. But they're children. Human children, Jake corrected. They've been playing games that simulate hunting and warfare since they could walk. Did you think tag was just for fun? The horrible realization was beginning to dawn on Vex-9. Everything they had observed about humans, everything they had cataloged and analyzed, they had completely misunderstood. The violence in their entertainment wasn't a sign of weakness, it was training. The competition in their sports wasn't just recreation, it was preparation. The arguments in their politics weren't chaos, it was tactical planning. You've been preparing for us, he said. Not specifically, Dr. Martinez replied. We've been preparing for anything. It's what we do. We're humans, but you're supposed to be afraid. Oh, we are, Jake said, terrified actually. Do you know what's going to happen when word of this gets out? When every human on the planet realizes that aliens exist and that they came here to hunt us? What? We're going to want to visit you. The way he said it made Vex-9's blood freeze. Visit us? Oh yes. We're going to want to see your worlds, meet your people, learn about your technology, and most importantly, We're going to want to make sure this never happens again. You can't reach our worlds. You don't have the technology. We didn't have the technology, Jake corrected, but you brought it to us. And humans are very good at reverse engineering things. Plus, Betty added, we're very curious. Once we know something exists, we absolutely have to go poke it with a stick. That's not how space travel works. Says who? Dr. Martinez asked. Your people? The ones who just got outsmarted by a species that you classified as primitive? Vex 9's communicator crackled one final time. Sir, this is Grunt 4. I've managed to reach the extraction point, but sir, the humans are here. They're waiting for us. Waiting for you. They've set up tables, sir. With food, they want to. They want to talk. Talk about what? Everything, sir. Our technology, our culture, our star charts. They're particularly interested in our propulsion systems. Vex 9 looked around at the humans surrounding him. They were still smiling, still friendly. But he could see the predator lurking behind their eyes, not the mindless aggression of a simple carnivore, but something far more dangerous, intelligence combined with determination. So, Jake said, here's what's going to happen. You and your people are going to come with us. We're going to have a long, friendly conversation about your species, your technology, and your intentions. And then we're going to send you home with a message. What message? Bod, that Earth is off limits. Permanently. And that if anyone else gets any bright ideas about hunting humans, they're going to find out why we're the only species on our planet that hunts for sport. You can't do this to us. Actually, we can, Dr. Martinez said. You see, you made one critical error in your analysis of our species. What's that? You assumed that because we're social creatures, we're weak. You didn't consider the possibility that we're social creatures because we're strong. We work together not because we have to, but because we want to. And when someone threatens one of us, they threaten all of us. And humans, Betty added, really don't like being threatened. As if to prove her point, the crowd of humans around them had grown to several hundred. They had appeared from nowhere, moving with a coordination that spoke of years of practice. They were armed, organized, and most terrifyingly of all, they were still smiling. Welcome to Earth, Jake said, his grin widening. Hope you enjoy your stay, because you're going to be here for a while. Vex 9 looked around at the sea of human faces, each one reflecting the same mixture of curiosity, determination, and barely contained excitement. He had come to hunt the ultimate prey, and instead had discovered something far more terrifying. He had found the ultimate predator. And it was looking back at him with the patient, calculating gaze of something that had just realized it had been handed the most interesting challenge it had seen in centuries. You know, Jake said conversationally, we're going to learn a lot from each other. The question is, are you going to be cooperative students, or are we going to have to get creative with our teaching methods? The sound of human laughter echoed across the small town, and Vex 9 realized with crystal clarity that his hunting days were over. From now on, he was going to be the one being studied, cataloged, and analyzed. The hunter had become the hunted, and the humans were just getting started.